Yo, it's me, CSGOTT, baby, and I'm back with my review of Avengers Endgame, starring everybody and directed by the Russo brothers. Alright, so, I say everybody, I mean everybody. Everybody. This was it. This is the big combination of everything that happened. From day one, this was it. This is what they were heading towards. And this was it. This was the end game. And I remember going into this movie, much like Infinity War, not knowing what I was walking into. Like, I had a pretty good idea of somewhat, the concept that was going to go on. And from the very beginning, it tells you this is going to be very serious. But some comedy, very serious, because we get the very first scene of this. One thing I forgot to mention in the Captain Marvel, couple of things. One, two things I forgot to mention in the Captain Marvel review. One, at the beginning of the movie, where you start off with the whole Marvel logos and stuff, for Captain Marvel, it's because this was shortly after Stan Lee died, it's all Stan Lee. All his cameos and everything put together. It's really cool. Another thing was there's a post-credit scene which showed the Avengers with the pager. How the hell they got it or even knew it was sending out a signal is beyond me. But they have it there and it's still sending out the signal, and then Carol shows up and says, "Where's Fury?" And that's where it ends. And I firmly believe this was supposed to be in Avengers Endgame, but they took it out, and people were like, "Oh, it's just going to be a scene in Avengers Endgame." But no, it's taken out. The first scene we get is actually what happened to Hawkeye's family. He's teaching his daughter Lila how to shoot arrows, and his wife's like, "You want mayo or mustard on your hot dog?" And they're like, "Who puts mayo on their hot dogs?" "I do. I put mayonnaise on my hot dogs. Okay? It's not weird. I put mayonnaise on my hot dogs. It's delicious." Just saying. That bugs me every time. Like, they think it's not cool. Like, if you put mayo on your hot dog, you're like, "Not cool." I'm just saying, it's good. It's delicious. Mayonnaise, hot dog, delicious. Same. Anyway, they go poof, and right away it pulls on your heartstrings. Like, here's my problem, though. It shows that when this happens, clearly we can see he's still under house arrest. But as far as we know, he and Scott, Ant-Man, went under house arrest at the same time. Therefore, he should not still be under house arrest when the snap happened. Because Scott wasn't under house arrest when the snap happened. So he shouldn't have been under house arrest. I understand they're trying to, cross the T's, dot the I's, but that's one mistake they made. If Scott Lang was off of the house arrest when the snap happened, so should he. He should have been off it too. It's a mistake, it happens, but they show clearly he has the leg thing. He should have been off of the, just saying. And then it transitions to showing that one thing I didn't get, and I still really don't get it, is that Tony and Nebula are lost in space. And they say that the ship was damaged during battle. What battle? The only thing we saw that the Guardians' ship was that they flew down, fired on Stark and them, and it landed. And then they started to attack. When else was the ship in battle? When was it ever damaged? It makes no sense. At all. Maybe I missed something, but I just don't see the damage. And they try to fix the thing. To be honest, I don't think it's really necessary to have them lost floating in space. Especially when you have Captain Marvel show up to save them anyway. It would have been easier for them to just fly down to Earth. Or something. they really, because the people who are okay with Captain Marvel like me, they're gonna say, okay, that's fine. But the people who really hated on Captain Marvel, and you can't really complain because it was revealed she filmed all her scenes for Endgame before she even started shooting Captain Marvel. So the fact that they did this is not against, to piss off any of the fans. So if you're watching this movie and you say, oh, did that, people were complaining. No, this stuff was filmed beforehand. So don't get all pissed off, alright? But yeah, she does save the day. She brings him down. He's in tough shape. Pepper's there. We get clues in, like, Spider-Man Far From Home about people who were snapped away, such as Aunt May. I think Happy was also snapped away. But yeah, we get it. He's rescued. And this is one thing that infuriates me. Alright? Even after all this, after everything that has happened between Civil War and this, Stark still blames everything on Captain America. He still won't take responsibility for his own actions. If he had not agreed on the Accords, they would not have been split apart. That was the problem. Captain America had a moral high ground. He was in the right. Tony wanted, he said, a suit of armor around the world. Yeah, you wanted protection. Well, you know what? What you signed was not about putting a suit of armor around the world. He said he saw a vision of it. That calls back to Age of Ultron when he wanted that thing to his head. Yes, and that's what started him wanting to put a suit of armor around the world. That's Age of Ultron. But his whole thing going off on Captain America, blaming him for the Avengers not being together when it happened. It's all Stark's fault, because he even had a chance in Infinity War. I didn't bring this up because I figured it would be poignant here, right? It would be poignant. It would be pertinent to put it here, all right? He had a chance to call Captain America, to call Steve on that little phone that he gave him, and he didn't. Instead, he flew off to sarcastically talk to aliens. Earth is closed today. That's what he did. He decided not to call Captain America. Banner had to call Captain America because Tony Stark, his ego is too high up there for him to even accept that he did anything wrong. And the one thing is, I'm not going to try to spoil the end of this, but throughout the entire film, he never truly admits he was in the wrong. Never. And at this point, he goes off on Captain America, still blaming him for everything that happened when it's his fault. It's Tony's fault. If he had not agreed upon the Accords, there would have never been a rift between them. Yes, Cap did not tell him that Bucky was responsible for his parents' death. Why would you? I don't blame Cap for that at all. He was protecting him. Why would you do that? Why would you tell him? And he gets angry about it. Why would you tell him? I agree with Captain America on that aspect. Captain America, he's Captain America. He has a moral high ground. He is the moral compass of the Avengers. Everything he doesn't do because of ego like Tony Stark. He doesn't do it out of anger like the Hulk. He doesn't do it to impress the ladies like Thor. I couldn't think of anything for Thor. But he doesn't. He has a moral compass. He is representing the US of A. He represents every good-hearted American out there. Everything that he does is with morals. Tony Stark cannot say that. As much of a hero as he becomes in this film, he can never say that he has the morals of Captain America. I'm not hating on Tony Stark at all. But the fact that he never he never looks Cap in the face and says, I was wrong, just pisses me off. I've got it off my chest. I need to get that off my chest. I've been waiting 22 films to get that off my chest. I finally got it off my chest. I held it back in Civil War because I didn't want to spoil anything going into here. But got it off my chest. Tony Stark was in the wrong from Civil War to here, and he still could not admit that. And he blamed Captain America for them not being together when the big battle went on. Quoting Cap, saying, well, if we lose, we'll lose together. We'll lose together too. We'll do that together too, or whatever. Yeah, that's what he said. And technically they did. But it's not fair to blame it on Cap. It's not his fault. If you had not agreed upon the Accords, there wouldn't have been a rift in the Avengers to begin with. I'm just saying. So then, they track down Thanos. And they find out he used the stones to destroy the stones. Which, of course, we know the only thing that can destroy the stones are the stones. Which is why Wanda was able to destroy the stones. She has the power. You know? So, yeah. And we get a sort of callback when Thor comes in, he chops off Thanos' hand. And I'm sitting there in the theater going, why didn't you do that before? Why he does it now to stop him from using the thing. Why didn't he do it before? That just pisses me off. He does it now so he doesn't use the stones when he doesn't know that he doesn't have the stones. So, why didn't he do that the first time? Because plot. And then, after he says that he destroyed the stones, they say he's lying, but Nebula says, my father is a lot of things, but not a liar. And then, whew, so what did you do? I went for the head. And then we cut to 5 years later. There's a time jump. And Scott Lang is released from the quantum realm by a rat. A fucking rat. Are you serious? Now, I'm taking this from Sean Chandler, but I think it would make sense if his daughter was the one to do it. And not that she's looking for him, per se, but the fact that, having just watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, she said she wants to be like her father. So it would make sense that an older version of Cassie Lang would be looking for anything to connect to her father. And she'd be looking for the van. And so she's in there, she's poking around, trying to figure out what to do. She hits a button, and Scott Lang is brought out. That makes much more sense than a stinking rat. Alright? I don't know why they didn't do that. I understand they wanted an emotional reunion, but they could have had an emotional reunion here. Like, he comes out, and he looks at her, and she goes, and he's like, who are you? And she'll go, Dad? Cassie? What happened? And then she has to explain to him what's going on. Like, supposedly she's supposed to be part of the new Avengers. I'm surprised she wasn't in this more. She could have helped out computer-wise or something, or at least, at the very least, they could have had her be the one to release him. I think it's very stupid. We see that Natasha's hair is growing back to being red. Okay. And they're organizing space stuff, and Captain Marvel cut her hair. You know. And Scott Lang shows up at the compound. I don't know why I had the compound. Well, one thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this, but in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Sam Falcon has this group that he's sort of, leading. And here, Captain America's leading the group, but it's now a survivors group. What I do like, though, is at the beginning, when they bring Stark back, Captain America just finishes shaving his beard off. So, there's that. Because in the scene in Captain Marvel, he's still got his beard. So, I'm just saying. And yeah, so Scott Lang comes in and he explains to them that they could do time travel and they need someone with smarts. They go to Tony, and of course, being Tony Stark, with that ego, believes that it won't work because they just can't do it, apparently. And, Scott Lang tries to explain basically the rules of Back to the Future. Like, you're putting everything on Back to the Future. And we're going to get to their concept of time travel in a little bit, because I think it's total bullshit. But we'll get to that. So because Stark won't help them, big ego and all that, they go to Banner. And here's one of the few missteps that they do in this movie. I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. And that's that they've decided to make Professor Hulk. It's from the comics, sure, but it makes no sense the way they were leaning towards. All they say is that he was working in a gamma lab and fused them both together. How is that? Because they said that starting with Thor Ragnarok, it would be a 3-movie arc for the Hulk. How does this finish an arc for the Hulk? The whole story they were telling in Infinity War was leading towards the Hulk finally stepping up and fighting Thanos. That's what it should have been about, not fusing them together. I'm sorry, but this Professor Hulk is bullshit. I don't hate it, but it was the wrong direction. The wrong direction. Like, they were headed in the right direction. All they needed was Hulk to have redemption, but Professor Hulk, no. I'm sorry, but no. It's a little funny, Hulk stabbing, but no. You shouldn't have done that. Because, like I mentioned in my Incredible Hulk review, the Hulk, because like he even mentions that he was trying to get rid of Hulk for so long. Yeah, that's the point of the Incredible Hulk, is that he's trying to get rid of it. Him embracing it in the past 2 films, yes, where he said that, oh, I'm always angry, even though it didn't make sense in some films. Yeah, and then here, I understand they're leading towards him and the Hulk coming to an understanding, but they did that in the animated series with better results than this, where they're going back and forth. Of course, it also created the Grey Hulk, which I would have loved to see on the big screen, by the way, but they'll never do it now. They fucked it up. I'm sorry, but Professor Hulk was a bad idea. I'm sorry, it is. It is bad. It's terrible. Anyway, so they try to use time travel, and according to Tony, they're just pushing time through Lang instead of pushing Lang through time. Of course, because we gotta fill that Stark ego up, Tony Stark's the only one that can get it to work right. Because I guess he's the only smart one in the MCU, right? What are they gonna do now? We'll get to what I mean later, but I understand he started it, but his ego is just... I just don't get why he had to be the one. I mean, Banner is sometimes smarter than Stark, but they always present Stark as thinks he's smarter. This would have been a perfect time for Stark to be like, oh, I cracked time travel, by the way, and then it still didn't work. And then Banner had to go in, oh, you got this wrong, switch something around, and finally show that Banner is smarter than he is. Hell, Lang is pretty smart. It's his idea. I'm just saying. By the way, what happened to that stuff he collected? Because it's been 5 years, but for him, it's been 5 hours. He collected something for Ghost. Are they going to throw that away? He didn't have it with him unless it was... He didn't show him holding it, unless I didn't see. What happened to that? Did he lose it in the quantum realm? Are they going to go back and get it later? I don't... So now we go to the time travel stuff. And basically, their time travel rules is that they can do whatever the hell they want in the past and it won't affect the future. Which is total bullshit. I've seen a million time travel movies and that is not the case. Basically, they say that whatever they do in the past, because, you know, Rhodey has the brilliant idea, go back to when Thanos was a kid and just break his neck. Which, in theory, would work. But according to the time travel rules of this film, whatever you do in the past won't affect the future. I've seen a lot of time travel movies and TV shows that call bullshit on that. There was Back to the Future, Timeline, Time Cop. I've seen... Time travel is my favorite movie. One of my favorite, except for a horror, time travel is my next favorite movie genre. Time travel films. I love that. Here, because they don't want to ruin, because they have a certain way, because the MCU has a certain way they want to have represent the future, they just say, oh, whatever you do in the past won't affect the future. So much that there's a time, they go back to 2012 during the Avengers, and they show this scene that couldn't have happened, by the way, because I think I mentioned this in my Avengers review. Because, by the way, if there was because they show that after Loki is captured and everything, the Shield shows up and they demand the Scepter and the Tesseract. Now, we know they get the Scepter because Hydra has it in Age of Ultron. But the Tesseract goes up to Asgard with Thor. But here, Pierce shows up, Robert Redford's character, and they argue about it. And to me, the timeline doesn't sync up right with what we've seen at the end of the Avengers, where the World Security Council would have been informed by Pierce where the Avengers were going, what happened to the Tesseract, but they're asking Fury, what about the Tesseract? Oh, they're taking it with to Asgard and stuff. So it doesn't sync up at all because the World Security Council will know what happened. Because Pierce would have told them, oh, they wouldn't, we got the spear, or the Scepter, but we didn't get the Tesseract. And Pierce would have said something. It just doesn't make any sense. And we're going to get another... Okay, so Hulk goes back to get the Time Stone with the Avengers in 2012, and you see the Ancient One there. And she won't give it to him until he says that, well, why did Doctor Strange give it up? And so Strange is supposed to be the best of them. You know, she wouldn't train him at first, but I think that was more of a test. And so she gives him the Time Stone. She says that if one stone is taken out, then it'll break off to separate different dimensions, which is supposed to explain the time travel paradox. If something happens in the past, it's just going to form a separate timeline, which explains when Loki gets the Tesseract and disappears. We're supposed to get that explanation in the Loki TV series on Disney+. So stay tuned for that. Not here, I don't have Disney+, but... there is one aspect that I got not pissed about, but very frustrated with. And we'll get to that later. Thor and Rocket go back to 2013 to Thor Dark World and get the red Infinity Stone, and he talks with his mother and everything. And they even show a scene of Jane, Natalie Portman. It wasn't any new footage. It was previously unused footage from Thor the Dark World. They get the red stone. He just extracts it from her. Rocket does, and they get out of there. Then we have 2014. We get the reenactment of the opening of... I like this, though. The reenactment of the opening from Guardians of the Galaxy. This time we see it from the other side, where we see Quill's side, where he's singing and dancing to Come and Get Your Love. But then we see it from Nebula and Rhodey's side, where he's Come Get Your Love, without that music, and he's just singing it to himself. And they knock him unconscious. They take the Power Stone. This also would affect something, because if Quill's knocked unconscious, he doesn't get the stone. Therefore, he wouldn't have been... And I know it wouldn't affect anything, but he doesn't get the stone, then he wouldn't bring it back to Xandar, to the pawn shop guy. And then the pawn shop guy wouldn't have said no. He wouldn't have been tracked down by Gamora, and thus he wouldn't have been tracked down by Rocket and Groot. They would have never gone to prison, and the Guardians wouldn't exist. I'm sorry, but this whole, we can do whatever we want in the past and it won't affect the future, bullshit. There are multiple problems you come up with trying to think about this. Removing the Power Stone from that completely unhinges the Guardians of the Galaxy storyline. Completely. They would never exist. And then they cook up something else. Well, because future Nebula is in the past, she connects to past Nebula because they're on the same network. And so that's how Thanos from 2014 figures out what's going on. So the big villain in this is not current Thanos, because he's dead, because they get cut off. It's 2014 Thanos, which would also complicate things, because 2014 Thanos, like, well, Korag isn't even there either. I don't know. But, like, his forces, like, why wasn't Korag part of this? I don't know. So, eventually they get all the stones, and Thanos sends future, or past Nebula with them to the future to pretend to be their Nebula. And then she brings Thanos forward without Pym particles. They need Pym particles to bring someone forward in time. That was the whole thing. They don't have any Pym particles to do that. Yes, they picked up some, but only enough for them to get him and Stark back. By the way, because they couldn't get the Tesseract, they go back to 1970. This is another inconsistency that I think is just written off by whatever age Tony Stark is supposed to be. But they go back to 1970, and Stark is not born yet. He's still in his mommy's stomach. She's pregnant. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I looked it up, and like, Robert Downey Jr. is older than that. And I get, they're probably saying that Tony Stark is younger, but it's confusing when you're supposed to believe, you're trying to believe that, I get it with Tom Holland portraying a 16-year-old Peter Parker. I get it. But when I saw Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man, I did not think he was younger than he was supposed to be. You know what I mean? But I digress. Especially when they show him as a teenager in 1991. Which I suppose, maybe he wouldn't have been. So maybe he's supposed to be younger. I don't know. But I digress. And while in the 70s, Steve, Cap, he sees Peggy, older Peggy, and he looks at her. There are several clues that hint to the future of Captain America and Iron Man in this. And some people say, oh, I knew as soon as they show he had a daughter, which he does, Morgan Stark, which I was kind of confused because in Infinity War he said he had a dream that they had a son named Morgan. Why did they change it to a daughter? Why does every superhero have to have a daughter? Ant-Man, Hawkeye, admittedly he does have two other sons, but I'm just saying, why couldn't Tony have a son? Yes, there is another character brought in at the end that could carry on the Iron Man story, but we'll get to that. So, and people say, oh, as soon as I saw he had a daughter, I knew he was going to die. And then some people said, oh, as soon as he connected with his father, I knew he was going to die. I guess I never thought about that. I was thinking about Cap. He has that picture of what's her name? Peggy. And they say, this is going to work. He goes, it better. Because I don't know if I'll do it if it doesn't. Even though he was sitting in that group, and he said that when he went on the ice in 45, he left the love of his life behind, but you have to move on. You have to move on. Saying that he moved on. But then we get to the end of this and we learn he hasn't moved on. Especially when he goes back to 1970. You can say, oh, he had moved on until he saw her again in 1970. Yeah, but what was the point of his little speech then if it wasn't? I'm just saying. And so they all get back to the same time. Like I said, they bring Thanos forward. Nebula. So they craft their own glove out of Stark nanotech. And of course, the Hulk's the only one that can use it. And he snaps and brings everyone back. And I'm thinking, so where is everyone? Thanos shows up and launches his attack. I'm like, where is everyone? You think that, someone, I understand, I guess I didn't understand that when they came back, they would come back to exactly where they were when they got poofed. So I didn't understand that. Because I'm thinking, he snapped, everyone's there. There. Everyone that lost right there. I understand that wouldn't make any sense for everyone in the entire world, but I was thinking they'd be right there. And I understand where is everyone, why it's taking so long. But I get it. They all poofed back where they poofed from before. Which we find out in Spider-Man Far From Home that that's not as natural as you would want it to be. So, it's 5 years have passed. And Stark says, make sure he gives everything we lost, but keep everything that we have. So basically, bring everyone back, but don't fuck up what we already have. Because basically, they want to keep everything 5 years later. It's just going to confuse people when they go to see movies, I think. But so they launch an attack. And Hawkeye's got to keep the glove away from any of his forces. Even though he accidentally gives it to Nebula. I know you. But then, this is another thing that kind of pissed me off. Past the Nebula, future Nebula shows up with past Gamora from 2014. And future Nebula kills past Nebula. And when it does that, I'm saying, why isn't Nebula disappearing? She just killed herself. Her past self. She should disappear. That's what pisses me off, is that it's ignoring physics. She killed her past self. Therefore, the future Nebula should no longer exist. She should poof out of existence. I'm sorry, I've seen a million time travel movies where their theory in time travel just cannot happen. The only reason it does is because they wanted all the pieces to come together the way they want it to. So they just said, whatever you do in the past doesn't matter. But now they're stressing they have to get the stones back to the past. Why? Nothing you do in the past matters, right? So you don't need to get them back because it doesn't matter if you bring them back or not. Everything will work out just fine. Because if it mattered, then stuff would already be affected. If the stones weren't there, it would already affect the timelines. That's just what I'm saying. And yes, they say, it goes off an alternate timeline, so it wouldn't affect this timeline. But I've seen so much time travel stuff, especially with The Flash, that I can call complete bullshit on that. Their way of thinking with time travel in this movie is just a way for them to have it end the way they want it to end. I'm sorry. And it's just more confusing because they tried to get it into the van to take it back. And then at the end, Hulk tells, or I'm going to call him Banner, because Banner tells Cap, you got to bring him to exactly where we dropped him off at. Well, if you were going to have Captain Marvel do that by flying into the van, she wouldn't know where to drop them off. So it wouldn't make sense to have her just fly into the thing and take her through the quantum realm. Especially since she didn't have Pym Particle. What was your plan there? They said, we got to get it to the van. So Captain America grabs the glove, flies in, and then what would have happened? Yes, Thanos destroys the van, but it wouldn't have done anything anyway. She would have been trapped in the quantum realm for the rest of the battle. Because she had no Pym Particle. We probably would have killed her. Not killed her, she has superpowers. I'm just saying. It was a desperate move that could have been dangerous. There's no Pym Particle involved. She has no suit, but she has her own suit. But I'm just saying, I understand they were desperate to try to get away from Thanos, but that makes no sense what they were trying to do. Now we'll get to the battle. So we get Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America fighting off Thanos because their base has been destroyed. And the others are trying to get out of there. So we get the main three fighting off Thanos. And this is where I was talking before about how Thanos didn't need the stones for more to fight in battle, to have more power for himself. Because he takes on all three of these men, the God of Thunder, a super soldier, and a super-powered man in a suit. A man in a super-powered suit, I should say. With ease. I mean, he has a little bit of struggle, but he just, boom, boom. Everything they bring it at him, he just puts them away. Even when Captain America, because you got Thor down like this, and Thanos is wrenching Stormbreaker closer and closer to his chest, to his heart. And you see the hammer raise up and fly out. And it's caught by Captain America. And Thor just smiles and goes, I knew it. And he uses it. And it helps a little. But in the end, Captain America's shield is destroyed by a blade that Thanos just wields. No power stones, nothing. Just by a blade that can destroy vibranium. So that's what I'm saying. Thanos didn't need the stones for more power. He just needed them to make for his plan. He didn't need them to amplify his power. He had enough. Although he does use it against Captain Marvel later, the purple one, because she's stronger than he is. But I'm just saying. And when you think it's down, Captain America's by himself. He tightens up his shield, what's left of it, and you hear, Cap, it's me, Sam. Cap, are you there? On your left. And he turns, and the little Doctor Strange thing whirls around, and out comes Black Panther, Shuri, and his mom? Someone else, maybe M'Baku, I don't know. And he's standing there, and he just sort of smiles at Cap. And then other circles start opening. And people are flying through. You got Falcon. You see Bucky, Spider-Man, which makes me start to cry. Because he was the one that made me cry in Infinity War. Everybody is back. Even those like Pepper and Valkyrie and Korg and Meek and Howard the Duck. You gotta look very close, but he's there. Even, what's his name from the Guardians of the Galaxy? You have Ravengers there. You have Sorcerers. The guy who now has the from Michael Rooker's character, I forget his name. Mary Poppins, y'all. The other guy, little guy. I forgot his name, but he's there. Everybody is there, and they're fighting off Thanos. And it gets to a point where Thanos is about to lose because Wanda comes up and you've taken everything from me. And he says, I don't even know who you are. Because it's 2014 Thanos. She doesn't know. And she has the power of the red power, Infinity Stone power in her. So she's about to beat him. And he's like, rain fire. And the guy says, so what about our troops? Just do it. Starts with firepower. Getting his own troops. Knocking them down. It breaks a dam. Doctor Strange has to try to force it off. And you have these sorcerers creating shields so they're not hit by the bullets. And then the firepower points up and starts shooting at something. It's Captain Marvel. She comes flying down. She tears the ship in half. She starts fighting Thanos. Well, Peter has the... You get these reunions like Peter and Tony, and they finally have a hug because in Homecoming he said, we're not there yet. But they have a hug, and he's like... And even Peter's like, this is nice. And you see just a little reunion between Ant-Man and Wasp and everything. There's one thing I forgot. And we'll get to that in a minute. I'll do it now. How'd they get the Orange Stone back? Well, Hawkeye and Black Widow go to get the Soul Stone. Of course, you need a sacrifice. And going into this, I'm like, okay, Hawkeye's dead. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, Black Widow has a movie coming up next year. She's not going to die. But shockingly, Black Widow is the one that dies. And I was like, wait, what? She has a movie. Apparently it's a prequel set between Captain America Civil War and Infinity War. So it's the all-important story of how she got her blonde hair. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah. So yeah, she dies. And Hawkeye doesn't. So he ends up getting recruited, reunited with his family. Because he's this assassin, which I don't understand where he goes from his family disappearing. Maybe they'll explain it in the Hawkeye TV series, but I don't know where he goes from his family disappears to, I'm going to kill people. Bad people, but I'm going to kill people. I don't know. But so, there's this struggle to get the glove, the gauntlet, whatever, away from Thanos. Even trying to take it through the quantum route, wouldn't really go anywhere, I don't think. And then, eventually, Thanos gets it. And he tries to snap it, but Captain Marvel's there, and she's beating him. He tries to beat her, and it doesn't do anything. And then he takes the purple stone out and slaps her. And then there's a scene when they're done all the reunions where Iron Man looks at Doctor Strange and he says, 14,000 futures. Is this the one? And Doctor Strange says, if I tell you, it won't happen. So here, he's putting the glove back on. Tony's laying there. Doctor Strange looks at him and he just goes. So Tony gets up and he stops him. He's holding on to the thing. And Thanos just throws him aside. And he reacquaints it. And he snaps. And nothing. He says, I am inevitable. And he snaps. Nothing happens. He looks. They're gone. He turns to Tony. The nanotech syncs up with his hand. All the stones are there. And Tony says, and I am Iron Man. Snap. Thanos' forces start to dust. Thanos accepts his defeat. He sits down. He puts his head down. Everyone starts to dust. They're all looking around. Thanos shakes his head. It's almost as in saying, I've been defeated. He dusts. And this is where it took me a minute to connect. Tony doesn't say a word. You have Peter coming up saying, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. You know, Rhodey comes up. Pepper comes up. Tony. And now I'm starting to connect. Hulk said a normal person, it could kill them. That's why he had to do it. I didn't even think about it. Tony snapped. And killed him. And when Peter starts to say, Mr. Stark, we did it. Mr. Stark, we did it, Mr. Stark. And I get a little teared. But when Pepper says, it's okay, Tony. You can rest now. It's over. You can rest now. He doesn't say a word. His suit powers down. He's gone. And you see it pan to the, Captain Cap and Thor, and they're just looking over. Tony Stark is dead. He sacrificed himself. And this goes back to the Avengers when Cap said, when it comes down to walking away or laying on the wire, you would rather walk away. He says, I think I would rather cut the wire. Which was a smart-ass comment, but he finally laid his life on the line by doing that. He sacrificed himself, which is why Doctor Strange said, if I tell you what happens, it won't happen. If he says you have to snap your fingers and sacrifice yourself, your conscience is going to keep thinking, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to die. You're going to think too much about it. If you don't have to think about it, you just... There it is. And we get a funeral scene. Everybody is there, including one kid. And now that I've watched this again, and I'm in an MCU Facebook group, and I thought about this. So, this kid is Harley from Iron Man 3, but because they did not recast the role, it is Ty Simpkins. It made me think, he got snapped away. Because if this is 2023, he'd be in his 20s if it wasn't snapped away. But the kid is 18. He's the same age. He got snapped away in the initial snap. It's something you don't think about when you're watching this. You just see all these, and you're told, oh, that's the kid from Iron Man 3. Oh, okay, that's cool. They got him to come back. But you don't think about it. They didn't hire a new actor. It's the same actor. He got snapped. You don't think about it. It's not important at this point in the funeral, but he got snapped. Something to think about, I guess. You see everyone there. Even Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, who he and Tony didn't get along at all. He's there. Everyone is there. Hank Pym. Think about that. Pym said for the longest time he would never trust a Stark. He's at Tony Stark's funeral. Think about that. That's how much this means, that he saved everyone. They've put people with problems with the Stark have put away their problems. Ross? Pym? Forgot his name for a second. Then they compared this to Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, because there's a long thing where now we go to Wanda and Hawkeye talking about, he wishes he could tell Natasha, and Wanda says she knows. They both do, referring to Vision, who didn't come back, which is important. That's going to be in WandaVision, but yeah. And yeah, then we get this scene on the front porch between Happy and Morgan, the little girl, and she goes, I'm hungry. He goes, what do you want? And she goes, cheeseburgers. He said, your dad loves cheeseburgers too. I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. I'm starting to cry. I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. And that was Tony's thing. He wanted cheeseburgers. That's the one thing he said after he came back from he goes, I want to call a press conference. He goes, I want an American cheeseburger, and I'm going to call a press conference. Let's go. Cheeseburger first. That's exactly what he said. Not word for word, but I'm paraphrasing. That's what he said. So bring back the cheeseburger line. That's great. And we get then the second moment. Cap's going to return all the Infinity Stones exactly where they left off. He's also got Mjolnir. He's going to take that back. And I missed this the first couple times I watched this, but I got it this time. Bucky says to him, I'm going to miss you, man. And I think about it. Oh, I figured he knew, but I didn't catch that before. I miss you, man. I'm going to miss you, man. And so they said, he'll be back in 5 seconds. And he never, And so, Banner gets it set up, tries to bring him back. He's not there, but there's an old man sitting on a bench. And it's old man Steve. And he gives Falcon the shield. Now, I kind of accepted this, but because I know there's reasons. But I still think you should have given it to Bucky. I understand that. You can tell me you have a reason. I'm going to go through it right here. I understand. The Avengers might not trust Bucky because of the programming in his head. We don't know if it's all out. If Shuri got all out before Infinity War happened. We don't know that. I understand that. But I still think it should have gone to Bucky. I understand he and Sam had a connection, but he and Bucky grew up together. Come on. But Bucky accepted this. And I've seen promo images for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't like that Bucky cut his hair. I understand that Sebastian Stan probably didn't like the long hair, but the Winter Soldier needs to have long hair. I'm sorry. If they made it Captain America, I would understand, but they didn't. So cutting his hair is just confusing to me. I don't know. And he's got a wedding ring on. I said, "Do you want to tell me about that?" He goes, "No, I don't think I will." And then they show him. They flash to him and Peggy finally having their dance, and the movie ends. There's this touching tribute to all the actors in this series, and then all 5 Avengers have their autographs and stuff. That's pretty cool. And then the movie ends. There's no post-credit scene, but there is when the Marvel logo pops up at the end. You hear ding, 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 which is supposed to signify Tony Stark hammering away at something like he did in Iron Man. And people say, "Oh, that's the kid from Iron Man 3 building his suit." No, that's just a tribute to Tony Stark. Here's my thing with Captain America. Because I sit there trying to figure out how he could still be alive if we went back all the way back to, when he left. If we went back to almost the exact moment when he left, like to 1945, there's no way he could still be alive. He would have died around the time Peggy did. But if we went back to 1970, and I even looked at Peggy's face, you can see there's a little bit of CGI on her. If we went back to 1970, there's a possibility he would still be alive at this point. Because Chris Evans is what, 35? So back to 1970, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, 90 to 2000, 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2020. and this is 2025. So 2020. So it's 2023, right? So 53 years from 35 is 88 years old. You can still be alive, I guess. It's a lot. But I'm just saying. Because I don't know. Maybe Cap's younger than he's supposed to be too. I don't know. But he can still be alive. A lot of people have said, oh, he just teleported from wherever he was in the thing. If that was true, he would have popped up on the docket there. On the little platform. Not ended up on a bench. So he had to have, it had to be Cap from 2022, 2023, whatever. I'm just saying. But anyway, this is a fantastic film. I have my problems with it, but it's still fantastic. I'm going to give it a 9 because I really enjoy this movie. I think it's great. The time travel mechanics in this movie give me a freaking headache, but it's still a good movie. So what are your thoughts? This is my longest review yet. What are your thoughts on, I figured it would be long. That's what she said. What are your thoughts on Avengers Endgame? My favorite line. Oh, my favorite line. Oh, and Thor goes off with the Guardians. Not that it matters. He's supposed to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But that's supposed... They said that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will happen after Thor Love and Thunder, which is the 4th Thor movie. So I don't know how they're going to make that work. I don't know. But, yeah. And I don't like the... He gives New Asgard, which is where he's been living, Fat Thor. I forgot to mention Fat Thor. Don't care for that, but it doesn't bother me as much as the other stuff. And Korg and Meek are still alive. I mentioned that before. But, yeah. They were alive before the second snap happened. But everyone back. They were already alive. They were on New Asgard with Valkyrie. She was still alive. I got to mention that. I'm sorry. I mentioned it now. But yeah. Favorite line. You know? Going into this, I thought it would be, I am Iron Man. But I think I'm going to have to choose. Your dad loved cheeseburgers. I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. That's what I'll have to say. That one really hit me for some reason this time. So that's what going to have to be. So, what are your thoughts on Avengers Endgame? Leave them in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.